As you work on a project, you may find it difficult to keep track of what tasks you have to do, when you have to accomplish those tasks, and how to finish all of them on time. To make sure that you know what tasks need to be done and when to finish these tasks, you will want to begin project planning.
The first step of project planning is figuring out what tasks need to be completed to finish the project. To do this, you'll want to use a work breakdown structure. A work breakdown structure is a deliverable-oriented visual tool that helps you decompose a large project into smaller, more manageable tasks and subtasks. Deliverables are the pieces of a project that need to be produced and delivered in order to complete a project. They can be tangible objects like a prototype, or intangible like research on a project's background. There are two steps in making a work breakdown structure. The first step is to list out the major tasks or deliverables of the project. These could include a final report, a functional prototype, or an oral presentation. A work breakdown structure needs to encompass all of a project's deliverables so that the entire project can be recorded and mapped out.
Major tasks and deliverables of a project are often too large for one person to handle by themselves. The second step in creating a work breakdown structure is to break your major tasks or deliverables down into smaller subtasks. A subtask is a clearly defined unit of work that is small enough to be assigned to one or two people to complete. A subtask could be designing a testing method for durability, creating the 3D printed case for your device, or ordering a linear actuator. By decomposing tasks into smaller subtasks, a team can better understand what work must be completed in order for the major task or deliverable to be finished. This process of decomposing tasks can occur many times and only stops when a subtask can easily be assigned to one or two people to work on. Recall the decomposition method, where you break down a product or process into chunks or aspects. The process of making a work breakdown structure is very similar.
Let's take a look at some examples for step 1, listing out major tasks. These examples are modeled after Team SafeSoap. In the first example, the SafeSoap team broke down their overall project into 3 main tasks: conceptual design, physical design, and communication. In a second example, the team listed out conceptual design, physical prototypes with prototypes 1, 2, 3, and 4 under it, and then communication. A variation of this is listing conceptual design, prototype 1, prototype 2, prototype 3, prototype 4, and communication, where each prototype is listed as its own major task. And finally, example 4 has a work breakdown structure that follows the engineering design process for listing out major tasks.
Let's look at some examples for step 2, breaking down the major tasks into smaller subtasks. Looking at example 3, we can break down the major tasks of prototype 4 into subtasks like creating the soapbox, making the dispenser handle, integrating the grater with the device, and making a mounting box to attach to the wall. However, these subtasks are rather large, and it is hard to assign one person to complete a subtask like creating the soapbox. So, we will decompose the subtask of creating the soapbox into even smaller subtasks, like designing the soapbox acrylic, cutting the acrylic, and then gluing the acrylic together. Each of these decomposed subtasks cannot reasonably be broken down any further and can easily be assigned to one person to work on. We will continue this decomposition process until all of the deliverables and the work required to produce these deliverables are covered in the work breakdown structure.
From these examples, it's clear that work breakdown structures can have many different forms. However, every example decomposes a project in a hierarchical way. At the beginning of a project, it can sometimes be hard to make a detailed work breakdown structure because you don't always know right away what needs to be done. Or even if you begin with a solid outline, you might change direction along the way and revise your work breakdown structure. You'll have to use your best professional judgment and update your work breakdown structure as the project progresses and becomes more clearly defined. For example, if part of your structure is dedicated to a specific prototype, you should keep that part updated as the prototype's design evolves.
Here are some helpful tips that you can use when making your work breakdown structure. First, if your team went through the process of decomposition during brainstorming, the design blocks you came up with may be helpful as a starting point for your work breakdown structure. Second, when breaking down your deliverables into subtasks, think about what tools and materials you are going to use in order to create that deliverable. Third, think of subtasks as chunks of work that produce part of the deliverable. When you sum up all of these chunks of work, it should result in a completed deliverable. And finally, use a whiteboard or index cards laid out on the table to record the steps of creating your deliverables.
At the beginning of this video, we noted that the work breakdown structure allows you to see what tasks need to be done to complete a project. This allows you to visually see the total scope of the project's tasks. However, keep in mind that the work breakdown structure does not tell you when to complete these tasks. Work breakdown structures are independent of time, meaning that they don't communicate the time that it takes to complete tasks or the order in which they need to be completed.
To determine when you need to complete tasks, you will use your work breakdown structure with a project management tool, such as a Gantt chart or a Trello board. In the next video, we will go over the next step of project planning by using Trello to manage your work breakdown structure's tasks with respect to time and deadlines.